Gary, I think the hour is getting late, and the reason for this Red Alert report is to discuss exactly what's going on in the capital markets and with the big banks. The first thing I wanted to talk about, and thanks again for giving us a moment of your time, you and I are both very, very concerned about recent turns in events, and I just want to read something to you real briefly, and then I know you have something you want to share. In a recent Washington Post article by Ezra Klein, Janet Tavakoli shares some information on why every bank is about to shut down all foreclosures in what she calls, quote, the biggest fraud in the history of capital markets, end quote. And I wanted to get your take on that.
It's getting very serious. Last Thursday, I picked up a rumor that the Bank of America was going to be suspending all foreclosure activities. A notice of doing that came from Washington, D.C. If anyone doubted that Washington now owns Wall Street and the entire financial banking and financial system, this pretty much confirms it. Things are happening so doggone fast. If this was a science fiction film, I wish it was, but it's not. You would have an engineer madly yelling at the captain, "The ship can't take it. Can't take this speed. We're going to be falling apart." I think we're just about at that point.
I want to read something to you that was reported on stevequayle.com. Now, people can say what they want about Steve Quayle, but
go right ahead.
Steve Quayle's reporting that hundreds of U.S. Marshals are being ordered to, quote, in-service training in non-home states and being required to turn in their issue firearms. The in-service training is to last for a period of 2 weeks and will start will start just before the November election. Steve Quayle is warning all law enforcement personnel, quote, under no circumstances leave your families in a potential hostage situation to be used against you as they are picked up for their safety.
Right.
I don't think people understand how a martial law event in this country could be carried out in a moment's notice. If we take a look at PDD 51, even a major stock market crash could trigger this scenario. And once PDD 51 is invoked, then martial law could be fully implemented. What's your take on that, Gary?
Well, martial law is on the books. It's easy to look up. Just put in martial law into Google and read about it, and you'll be totally shocked at how easy it is for the president to declare martial law in our national martial law. I believe a governor can do it in the state, but for federal, I believe it has to be the president. And it is not that hard to do. And he can do it for any reason. Personally, I see that coming. I've seen it coming for quite some time. We're just hitting the point where it's not only possible, but it's probably likely.
What people need to understand as it relates to gold and silver, if what we're talking about comes to pass, then gold and silver it's a fine insurance policy, but we're talking about a doomsday scenario for our republic. And I think that what people need
very serious, yes.
I think what people need to understand is that out of the events of 9/11 rose what I like to call a culture of corruption. Now, you can take 9/11 at face value, or you can have the courage to go back and revisit what actually happened on 9/11. And if the American people do not have the courage to go back and look the ugly truth of 9/11 in the eye, then every single thing that happens, including 2 unconstitutional wars, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan, including the Patriot Act 1 and 2, including the Military Commissions Act, the John Warner Defense Act, including the entire Homeland Security apparatus being turned around on the people themselves, we are culpable for what is about to happen.
And it's not just foreclosure. This is the thing. People are just now learning that Bank of America suspends all foreclosure activity. As Bank of America goes, all banks go. Let me just quickly say a couple of words. The whole of foreclosures, as I say, I believe is on the orders of the White House. They wouldn't do it unless the White House told them to. It's supposed to last until just after the election. How convenient is that? I keep hearing beware of November 3rd through the 11th. Well, that corresponds to the 8 days right after the election. There are strong rumors that I keep hearing over and over again that most banks, in fact, are preparing prepackaged bankruptcies. We all know what most of us know what prepackaged bankruptcies are, where all the paperwork is all prepared. It's all ready to go. All they do is sign the documents. Bingo. Well, in this case, guess who gets to be the new owners of all the banks and the financial system and so forth? It's the government. In a prepackaged bankruptcy, typically one larger corporation takes control of a smaller corporation. Banks go bankrupt, and a larger bank takes it over, and things like that. In this case, it'll be the government. The government already owns essentially Wall Street. The economy, the government's going to be owning that. That's beyond serious. It brings us to what I've been extremely concerned about for many, many years. The thing about mortgages and debts and borrowing money and so forth, yes, you have the law. Yes, you can go to court. And if there's only a few people that are not paying their bills, that are not making credit card payments and so forth, you take them to court and, you get your money. Well, what happens if you notice your neighbors are not paying their mortgages? Banks need money coming in. They need people paying mortgages. Well, what happens if there's a debtor? What I'm going to call a debtor strike and a taxpayer strike.
But Gary, this is exactly the point: is that this culture of corruption has bred essentially a no confidence vote in the American people, which is completely warranted. But the problem is that the banks, amongst themselves, in most cases, can't even determine who the owners of the titles of these mortgages are. So
it pretty much is.
The system is absolutely worthless, which at the end of the day brings me back to gold and silver only because it's real, only because in a culture of corruption, at least if you're not getting tungsten-plated gold, you're getting something real, and same with silver.
I agree with you partially. Quite frankly, most titles, particularly the ones before they got into subprime and just went overboard with titles and are with mortgages and so forth, most mortgages are written correctly. The I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
But the problem here is that they're all wrapped into CDOs and sold and resold. So the paper trail, and now in the case of actual purposeful fraud, purposeful forgeries that are being uncovered. I want to share this with you. So there goes Wells Fargo, according to Zero Hedge. California Attorney General calls on banks to halt foreclosures in California. Attorney General Brown says in talks with Bank of America, Ally, J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo. New Mexico Attorney General calls for suspension of mortgage foreclosures. This is going 50 states wide. It does not only include Bank of America. It includes J.P. Morgan. It includes Wells Fargo. It includes Ally. This is an epic meltdown problem that we are seeing, and it's all going to happen in November.
Well, the word epic, this is really historic.
This concludes Part 1 of Conversations 2.0, and please don't miss Part 2.